ways that the Lord can help us be refined in whatever circumstance. Now, I will say that there is a difference here, and I'm going to talk about that in terms of beings and modes. I already talked about that three-realm model, and that I'm going to suggest that some behaviors, as I have before, are telestial behaviors. They are destructive. They are sins. And then there are terrestrial problems, which are human imperfections. So there's a big difference between indulging a pornography addiction, or who lies, or who isn't honest, or isn't faithful in their marriage, or who won't work to support a family, things like that. There's a big difference between those telestial component behaviors that are destructive and condemned by God, and watching TV. I mean, if you're watching really ugly, horrible pornographic TV, that would be telestial. But if we're watching the news too much, or we get too much into some Netflix series, or whatever, we can be doing something that's not really helping us progress, and it's kind of keeping us attached to something in the world. I'm not saying you can't enjoy a movie once in a while, or shows, or whatever. I'm just saying some people overdo it. Or they watch too many sports on TV. Or they go to too many sporting events, and they're not spending time with their family, or with their spouse, and so they get a little too intense about some of that stuff. And we've been warned by our leaders over the years to simplify and not put the family in a secondary position, and not put the things that matter most, the mercy things that matter less, and so on. But those are more terrestrial problems. To get overburdened with good activities. They may all be good works, but that's a problem. And we have been warned about those things. But can you see the difference between those kinds of terrestrial problems, like I'm going to start every year thinking like I'm going to lose 10 pounds or 50 pounds, and I don't? You know, that's okay. I'm kind of a weak terrestrial person in there maybe, but I'm not like indulging in an addiction. I'm not destroying myself or other people through my behavior. I don't have a terrible temper that I let fly all the time. So let me give you an example of how people confuse these beings and modes and how it's damaging. So I had a couple that came in to see me. I mean, I could tell you this story a billion times with different details, but this pattern repeats incessantly. So here was a husband. They were both members of the church. They'd been married in the temple. He was a returned missionary. They went to church and so on. But he would still sometimes smoke pot. He really liked to smoke pot. He knew it wasn't right, and he wasn't worthy of the temple recommend and stuff like that, but he continued to indulge himself in that. Pot is now legal in some places, but it wasn't legal back then where he was and whatever. And so he was breaking the law of the land as well as the laws of the church and the laws of God. And this is a little unusual with pot sometimes, although it does all kinds of other damage, but he was a mean drunk. Like sometimes pot makes people mellow, but not this guy. He was one of those guys who would have been a mean drunk. So instead of getting mellow, he got nasty. And like he would come home stoned, and he would wake up his wife from a dead sleep in the middle of the night and say, the kitchen floor has been cleaned well enough. And he would insist that she get down and scrub the